So I'm so glad that you brought that up because this is the big question, Lalo. We've been friends for so many years. Why don't you work with us anymore? What's up, guys, and welcome to Honest Tattooer Podcast, a podcast for tattoo artists, tattoo enthusiasts, and overall people that love fucking tats like we do. And today I have my co-host, Matt Triano. What's up, brother?
Hey, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Pretty good. We have two guests today and a very special guest. What's up, Lalo?
Hey, how are you guys?
And my man, G Money in the building. What's up, bruh?
Back for another round with a discussion with these guys.
Got the love seat over there.
Yeah, bro.
Coffee on the couch over here. It's nice.
Dope. So today, we didn't really, specify from the rip when we wanted to do this show, like the things that we were going to talk about. But I feel like, man, there's so much to talk about because we have Lalo here. He's been up to a bunch of shit.
Yeah, you know what works though is
Talk a lot.
every time that we did the "What did we do this week" segment, I mean, that kind of leads into a natural conversation.
Everything else, yeah. So I think let's start off there.
Yeah.
So before we start, let's go with Lalo. Let's tell people your name, where you're from, how long you've been tattooing, and what kind of tattoos you like to do.
So, Lalo Yunda from Colombia. First generation of tattoo artists there, which means I didn't learn from anyone. I was just like, doing it, fucking up, trying to do better. I've been tattooing for like 31 years. I started tattooing.
God damn, bro.
I don't even want to say it.
I think you're.
How old am I?
You are. I think we're gonna start having to make a tally of like tattoo people and like how long they've been tattooing.
Yeah.
You're number one right now.
True. That sounds like a good idea.
I just want to adjust something real quick.
I think it's good. I think it's good, man.
No.
With those years come wisdom,
Yeah.
Totally.
and that's one of the big reasons why we wanted to have you on the podcast.
Awesome. So I've tattooed for 31 years. 18 of those years or 20 of those years I tattooed in New York City. I started doing hand poke, not the hipster style, but more like the jail solder because there was no tattoo artist in Colombia. So I did that. I did the homemade machine with the boombox motor. I bought the cheap coil $99 kit.
All of the levels of
All of the levels of it. Yeah. Now
What
I have
did
a
you
wireless
use for
machine.
your first ink ever? What did you use for your first ink?
My first ink ever, I think I just broke a ball pen and used that ink
Like ink, like tattoo pen.
and
ink.
just took a needle and thread around, and then I just did a little 5-petal flower on my toe. Went next day to school, and everybody wanted a tattoo.
So I'm gonna sound like a real amateur right here. Can someone explain to me why you wrap with the thread? Like why are you wrapping the needle with the thread?
You wrap the needle with the thread because that thread is what is gonna make the ink be there, so your needle can drive some ink into your skin. Because if you don't do the thread, the ink is not gonna stick to the needles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does
hold.
kind of like what the
like a tattoo needle. Sorry to interrupt you, but like a tattoo needle, it still has like a pocket for it to have some ink there.
Yeah.
But if you have just a regular
Just a single needle.
you're literally working off like the ink that's on just that little tiny bit of tip. There's nothing for it to hold ink.
Right. Okay.
yeah, basically that.
It feeds it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it would. How would it work if you had like a hypodermic needle, even if it was really small, because it still has a little tiny hole in it that can maybe hold a little bit there and be able to push it in.
I'm
But
sure
how
you
would you
can
get
do
it
some
in there?
damage for sure.
Somebody wants to let me try to tattoo you with a
I mean, you can do it like
hypodermic
that. You can dip it and do
Just
it, and I'm
go
sure you'll
for it.
get something.
Yeah.
for sure. So what we try to do every week is kind of just share something that we worked on this week. So why don't you start off?
Share one of the tattoos I worked
Yeah.
on this week. Actually, yesterday I did a guy 2 days in a row, and it was pretty interesting because the tattoos I do now, they're like super complicated, even though I tell people they should simplify their designs and their tattoos. I have this client that I've been tattooing for a long time, and he wanted a Buddha on his belly. So I did a Buddha face like this big, like 8.5, no, probably 10 inches, just the face with a lotus flower. And, you know, it was simple shading from dark to light, smooth, black and gray, no
Did
tricks,
you
no
line up the
gimmicks.
belly buttons on the Buddha and the?
And I was
No.
gonna do the same thing.
No, actually,
I was thinking it too.
Yeah, we were like, oh, I lined the belly buttons.
better than that. I didn't do the whole body. I did the face, so the hole is here. So the guy maybe smoke a little bit too much, you know. And he's like, "Son, don't smoke."
Oh man, I just had another idea for this freaking hole. Oh my god! Imagine if you have someone that has like an Audi belly button, and then you do like a naked Buddha with his little wiener, bro. It'd be so funny.
Little winner for sure.
You ever see the Homer Simpson one with that, with the guy's nipple?
No.
Yeah,
I've
the
seen
guy's
it.
nipple is Homer's wiener.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
that's hilarious. Oh,
How
man.
big is the nipple?
I mean, it's for a nipple, it's pretty big. It's impressive.
Circumcised nipple. So yeah, the cool thing about that tattoo is that I actually talked to my son's mom, who's a tattoo artist too, and I'm like, oh my god, I feel like this is how I used to tattoo 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was so much fun, so simple, and I did a big tattoo like this in 8 hours. Like the type of work I do now, like it takes so much work.
Yeah.
And they're so technical, so many layers to it that I like the end result, but like I was, you know, doing this tattoo, I was just like tattooing and whistling and like, and then I'm like, oh, like nice.
And then the end result is still awesome.
Yeah,
the
no, I love it.
client's
They-
still pumped.
Yeah, no.
You have a very unique style that I asked you once before. What would you like? What kind of genre would you call your style? And you didn't have an answer for me. Where did you kind of
Just
develop
didn't
that
pay
style?
attention. I had an answer for you.
You said Lalo style. You said it's Lalo style.
Lalo
I got
style.
Lalo
There you
style.
go.
No. I call it magic realism.
Oh yeah, that's right. You
Yes,
did say
yes,
that. Yes.
Yes.
But you kind of invented that, right?
I don't think so. Like, I mean, I can tell you who my influences were, and like you can see how it came from there. And it's basically when I started tattooing, I didn't start tattooing. I didn't have an apprenticeship. There was no tattoo shops where I'm from, so I didn't learn the traditional way. So I didn't learn, you know, how most people learn. Like you do first traditional tattoos, you do then something else. I like drawing a lot, so I like to do tattoos that didn't look like tattoos. So like painterly and things like that. And then I like to mix all that. And then I started mixing styles and all that. And you know, in the start, I think I was looking a lot to like Buena Vista Tattoo Club, Soil from France. Basically those two, I feel like they were the main guys that I was looking at. And you can tell some of my early pieces are very much like, oh, I want to be like those guys.
Right. I remember some of the pieces coming out from those artists you mentioned, especially in the early Instagram days as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I know this. I know the style you're pinpointing. It's
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So I remember when I saw Buena Vista Tattoo Club, because I was a painter too, you know, so I was painting 30 hours a week. And since my bread, I was earning it with tattoos, my painting was very experimental and based on the things that I was studying, but it was very free. And everybody in school was like, how do you get these ideas? They're amazing. And then I started selling a lot. And people were like, how? And I was like, and they would invite me to do shows in the start. And I was like, no, I don't want to do shows because I feel like it's going to ruin it for me. Because, you know, like, what if they don't like it? Then I'm going to start asking myself, like, what do people like? But then what if they like it? Then I'm going to be just painting the same shit just to please people and sell.
exactly.
So I didn't want to do shows until I had a lot of painting. I say when I had like 60 paintings, I'll go to shows. Otherwise not. But then I couldn't do that with my tattoos. I tried to do some of my painting and tattoos and I couldn't get it. And then I wanted to do something different, but like I couldn't get it. Why? Because I was thinking about it and because I had to please a client. And back in the day when we used to work together, do you remember my station was full of drawings?
Yeah.
My sketches were never really finished. They were like, you know, the red pencil sketch, like a cool sketch, but it was never finished. Like I would always finish it on the skin. And then when I tried to sell these new ideas to people, I would be like, you know, so then we can do like a whoosh, and a splash and a.
They're like, sound effects, kung pao, what?
And people were like,
Dude, I do that now. I
still do it.
I do that, dude.
I just have
sound
something to
effects.
show now. Yeah. But then no, and I realized, and it was so hard. Like now I do finish sketches for, not, you could print those things for my tattoos and I copy them when I'm tattooing. But that took a lot for me, because before I feel like I was always like, oh, I'm going to do a really good final drawing. And then when I was on 60%, I got it. I can go out and hang out. But then to convince people to get this new style, I had to like really work for it. And it was something new. And I have in mind 2 tattoos that I feel like they were the tipping point because I was busy. I had a lot of clientele and all that. But it was difficult to convince people, especially because back then, not many people was doing like weird tattoos.
Yeah.
And a lot of my tattoos were like, nah.
It definitely helps to be able to show someone a final product. Like this is what you're going to get. That way
Definitely.
there's no surprises.
I think
You don't want to like be like, oh, I have this really cool idea. Do you trust me? And they say yes. And then you give them the tattoo and they had something different in their mind. And then like, oh man, like they're not really happy with it. That sucks. It's a shitty feeling.
Oh, that's terrible when that
that's
happens.
a shitty feeling. But I think like for tattoos, like what you're talking about, it does like, because you're coming from like a painterly kind of state of mind where you're like, I want to create the art on the person, And like we were talking about that a couple of weeks ago, kind of like I with Basilio actually, how he likes to freehand everything and he gets a lot of like, of in the moment, I get to freehand it, I get to tattoo it. And it's like that process. And in the moment in time, for him, it's like what gets the best out of him, at that moment in time. But I think like when you're trying to sell new ideas to a client, you do got to give them something, I
mean, I always say like one of the best things that could happen to me is like, let's say I go on a tattoo tour for 3 months and I lose my iPad.
Ugh.
I think that's the best that could happen to me.
It's the best.
Yeah, because I did for 2 years when I got this piece from Boris, he freehanded this whole thing. And then I realized I was like, I can do that too. Like I was shy with freehanding because it would always take me a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I saw people that was freehanding cool stuff, I was like, oh, it takes them time too.
Yeah.
And then I started, I don't know if we were working together at that time, but I think for almost 2 years, I freehanded almost every piece that I could. Not all pieces are to be freehanded.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not every day I had the mental energy for it. But I was freehanding. Do you remember Shay's? The owl, I did a realistic owl here. That was freehand. I was freehanding realistic stuff.
Yeah.
And it would come out so much better because I was drawing, so the drawing was effective. Sometimes when you try to copy a photo exactly, it doesn't translate that good. So that is great. I've tried to do what I do, freehanding, and I love the pieces that I've done. It's just that, I enjoy so much the design process that I end up putting like so much crazy shit that to freehand something like that would be crazy and not practical. But if I lost my iPad and I had to freehand and I had an idea of what I had for you, Matt, I had this, but let's do the freehand version. I feel like I would evolve to like, for me, an ideal stage because I think I would enjoy it more. I think that's kind of what I enjoyed yesterday a lot about these tattoos, like the groove. Like I feel more like a performer, like I'm in the moment taking the decisions right there and all that.
Yep.
Instead of like, I do enjoy my tattoos a lot, but big part of them, especially in the start, when I look at my stencils, I'm like, because I design and I design shit that is gonna look cool. And then when I'm about to tattoo it, I'm like, oh God. Like wait, what?
Yeah.
And then sometimes when I start, I just did a piece that had like a stencil graffiti from a famous graffiti artist. It was part of a little section of the tattoo. And there was, I did it and I could have stopped there, but I was like, yeah, but I have to take it all the way, otherwise it's not going to have the effect that I want to have. And I'm like, oh shit, this is like another hour and a half at least.
Yeah. I think that what you mentioned there about like feeling like a performer, like I can relate to that. Like I just, whenever I feel like eyes on me, like in anything that I'm doing, I'm like, I got to crush this even more. There's like the pressure of the environment. Like, and we'll touch more in depth, but like that's kind of like what tattooing and TV feels like hardcore. Like,
Or in a shop.
Or in a shop full of tattooers that are watching what you're doing, you know? And like, you know, showing your coworkers what you're doing, I feel like does add stress.
Oh, totally. Like it's not the same if I'm tattooing in a private studio for 6 months, or if I am tattooing with you guys here and you're gonna come and see. Of course, I want you to respect me. I want you to be excited. I want to be like, of course that makes. Look, there was a moment where after the show, I think I went through a little weird phase where instead of me trying to be on the spotlight, I kind of like, I didn't want to be in the spotlight. And I didn't want to do conventions. And of course, all the conventions were inviting me. And I'm like, no, I need to get better. I need to regroup. I need to do these. And I started being super meticulous about everything, the way my studio was, my work, and all this extra work that you would think you would translate into better work. And my work got better. But
Well, then a little closer to you.
But then I was like, no, I don't want to do conventions because conventions, you know, it's too distracting and do that. And then I ended up going to a convention. Wait, that was me, no. I ended up going to a convention and I killed it. I didn't have that much preparation. I had to man up and do it right there.
Yeah.
Not so much like, oh no, but you know what? Maybe and this should be perfect. And then no, wait, no, no,
Just
boom,
go.
boom, boom, bam. Everybody looking at you, and everybody like, oh my god, your work is so good. I'm like, oh, is it really? Like, fuck yeah, you have to make it good. And then your the people you look up to, your friends that come, and everybody looks, and I remember it was amazing. I was like, oh no, I need to get out of the cave. You know, I'm not saying that one is better than the other one. There's moments and moments to do whichever. But I would always say that it's always positive to be around other tattoo artists. Like I tattooed in private studios for some time and it gets boring, man. It's so boring. And like sometimes, you know, you get content with what you're doing. And then the minute somebody else comes, you're like, ooh, wait, I haven't been doing this for the last 6 months. Like,
So I'm so glad that you brought that up because this is the big question, Lalo. We've been friends for so many years. Why don't you work with us anymore?
The main reason is just because I'm living outside of the States. So I'm trying to come here and maximize everything, which I'm not going to do anymore. Basically,
Are you not traveling to the States anymore?
No, I'm coming to the States. But, you know, like the first year I came to the States, my parents are in a really bad financial situation too. So my train of thought was like, whatever I'm going to pay in a shop, maybe I just rent a better Airbnb and I give that to my parents. And that's what I've been doing. But honestly, so kind of sad and lonely because
It's exactly what you were just saying now.
No, and not only that, I come to New York where I used to work and I spend all my time by myself. And I was doing it for my parents, but it doesn't really even add up the money. But just so you have an idea, I remember I told you and you were like, what? The first year that I came after the pandemic to New York, I must have been in New York probably maximum 15 weeks.
Yeah.
You know how much my Uber bill was? And I don't take Ubers anywhere else in the world. $8,000 in Ubers. So, you know, like when I'm living in Colombia, I'm making most of my money here. And then my parents are in this financial situation. And then I'm like, just in Ubers. It's crazy. Why? Because, you know how I do when I come here. I start at like 10 a.m. and finish at 2 a.m.
Yeah, I get it.
So it's Uber.
Dude, that's one thing I had to like, I broke that. As soon as like the prices of Uber started going crazy here, because at one point Uber was actually
it was
okay. It was affordable.
I remember it was very affordable.
And then at one point or another, it just like maximized. It just went full on super expensive.
Especially after the pandemic.
Absolutely after the pandemic.
Yeah. So that is the main reason, you know, like, but again, I was telling my client, like, honestly, it's not even worth it because then I still have to get like a better place and like, I'm not saving that much. And then I'm coming all the way to New York and I don't really get to hang out with anyone.
Yeah.
I don't really get to.
Because you work real late. You always, you start early, work till late. And then by then it's like, I need to start getting ready for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Nothing's going on after that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, that's basically it.
So, so just to be clear. So when you are tattooing here in New York, where are you?
What I've been doing, like, I like to come to different studios from friends, and that's what I did. But then also, okay, there's another reason. But then also now what I've been doing lately is
Just renting
I
an
just rent an
Airbnb,
Airbnb.
You tattoo out of there?
Yeah. Yeah, but I haven't had good experiences with them because I've rented stuff that it looks cool online, and then when you get there, I'm like, oh, I see where they took the cool photo in the cool
this
corner.
one corner, and that's
But
it.
like the last one, it was like $6,000 for 2 weeks, and the place was big, but like it was just a mess, like full of boxes and things, and like the switch for the light to get into the bathroom, it had like a stain of like finger grease, like this big and things like that. And I have to tell my like clients like, like no. And then the other thing is, I usually come for 2 weeks, and for me, like if I have to change stations all the time, it adds so much time to my work.
to just setting up, breaking down all that stuff.
So that wasn't, but that really was because my parents are like in a tight spot. I tried it. I've done it only 2 times. I think only 2 or 3 times. And honestly, looking at the money is not that much more. I mean, Ubers maybe, but then I should just get accommodation close to where I'm working, which is usually what I do. And Lower East Side is one of my favorite parts. Like this time, a friend rented me her place in Harlem, and it's a beautiful place. But the other day I was sick and I was calling friends to come and rescue me, and everybody was like, "No, dude, you're in Harlem."
You're in Harlem, bro. That's a whole nother world. That's like, I lived out of the city now. So I moved out. Yeah. I moved out of the city. I'm living in Westchester, which is like 45 minutes away, driving.
Wow.
So yeah, nobody's visiting me. All of my friends with cars. That's it.
I know how I feel.
I know. Only my friends with cars are going to visit me. That's it.
Also, you can give me a ride.
Cool.
That's what it is. Cool.
All right, let's move it along. Gabe, what did you do this week?
What did I do this week? What do you mean? Overall, like tattoos?
Yeah, what'd you tattoo?
Or outside tattoos?
No, I don't care about that. What did you tattoo?
All right. So tattooing, the most recent tattoo I did, I had a lot of fun on. Kind of like what Lalo was talking about. I got to freehand like a Sacred Heart on some dude's like ribs, stomach. And yeah, that was kind of cool. You know what's funny about freehanding designs is at one point, especially in the beginning, I used to think about like seeing people freehand tattoos and then like execute them good. And I used to be like, I'll never be able to do that. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that shit's insane. I'll never be able to do that. And now that I think about it, I'm like, holy crap. Like I'm freehanding like stuff comfortably, which is, it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. So I had a lot of fun doing that. And a lot of like my own natural stuff came out, kind of like the magic that Lalo was talking about, where I was like, that was fun.
The stuff
so
that
I had a lot of fun on it.
The stuff that you've been freehanding too is, it's like super clean too. Like anytime that I stencil something, it's a very big difference from when I freehand it. Like my freehand, even the final tattoo is what I'm talking about. Like when I freehand something, it's just so much more looser, and I would even say sloppier, right? But you like your tattoos that you freehand look just
still crispy.
So crispy.
Tight as.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I like when I freehand some stuff, I'll know that it's imperfect because I'm trying to do like straight lines, like coming around a curve or like a forearm or something that would, kind of like morph the design, especially the way you're looking at it. But I try to like accentuate it with the marker. And then, anything that I have to correct, I'll usually do it while I'm tattooing. I'll be like, I'll fix this line by, I don't know. So I make my corrections as I tattoo. Yeah. It's definitely a little bit more like high pressure type of tattooing because I'm kind of like doing that like sniper holding my breath as I'm like pulling a line. Like
You're thinking about so many more things
like,
when you're freehanding something. You're thinking this could rub off in one rub. You know?
Yeah.
You're thinking about that. You're like,
you
I
got
hope
that
this
race.
motherfucker don't sweat.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, you've had somebody start getting that sweat from just the pain of getting tattooed. You're like, fuck, you're fucking just getting my whole thing.
Yeah.
It's the
Your
worst,
your process and your comfort level in how you tattoo on a freehanded design completely changes.
And what you're talking about, like, you know, like early in your career, you probably saw people freehand stuff and you're like, holy shit, it's like a magic trick. You know what I'm
Right?
saying?
Yeah,
And
it's
now you
like,
can
oh, they're
perform
real.
that magic trick.
They're real artists.
You know?
You'd be like, oh, I'm never gonna be that.
But like, there's things like that. Like, man, I remember even just the instances where I had a stencil, part of the stencil disappeared, and then I had to draw it on, and the nervousness and the sweats that
Oh yeah.
overcame while I'm like doing that was crazy.
Oh yeah.
And now I can freehand something and tattoo it and just see the stencil disappear. And I'm like, I know what's happening.
Yeah, like I remember what was
I know what's there, bro. Like,
yeah.
I did a lot more freehand early in my tattoo career when I was experimenting with different styles.
Yeah.
And I actually think I felt more comfortable tattooing a freehanded design earlier when I was experimenting with more like looser black and gray stuff. Like I was looking at like stuff like Carl Grace would do, or like even like loose Bob
yeah.
Terrell stuff. Like if that drawing rubs away while you're tattooing it, like whatever, man, just keep going. Like
keep
it'll look
going,
good.
bro.
But like now I feel like my designs are a little bit more, I don't want to say technical because they're definitely not technical, but they're more structured. There's more of like there's more like precise building blocks that need to be landing in certain spots that I feel a lot more tense trying to freehand that.
yeah.
Like I rely too much on my iPad right now, like
You
getting
know-
those perfect circles and those
Maybe
lines.
you need to go on that trip with me.
Yeah.
Use the iPad,
I was
bro.
gonna say
Where we
that.
sell that-
I was like,
that
you need to
iPad
go
for
with
crack.
Lalo.
Talking about people that freehand a bunch of shit all the time, and it's pretty fucking cool. Shout out to that dude. What's his name? Denis Vasios. I don't know where he's from, but he freehands. He does neo-traditional, and he freehands everything. And it's always interesting. It's always fun. And his tattoos are like, as far as colors, super simplified. Like everything's just, you know, if it's red, it's going to be just red, you know, everywhere, little negative space. But the drawings just have a really nice, like, organic feel to them. And like everything's so fun, illustrated, like it looks sick.
Is it well saturated?
And it looks well saturated for the most part. Yeah.
I feel like it's a little bit like being an athlete. You know, like it's one of those things that it sounds so scary, so everything, but then once you start doing it, you get a momentum, you get a groove, you get better at it. You get so much better so quick.
Yeah.
And then you can do it. Like one of my favorite drawing classes ever was here in New York, and it was live drawing, life size. So the papers were like
Huge.
6 feet.
Oh shit.
6 feet and like 2 feet wide or 2.5. And it was one pose, 25 minutes.
Oh
That's
shit.
it.
Yeah.
Exactly. When I started the class, I was like, okay, wait, what? 25 minutes? What am I
Yeah.
supposed to paint? And I was drawing with a brush and acrylic for the most. And when I started the class, I didn't have the time to, you know, like I was overwhelmed and all that.
Yeah.
And like not even 2 months later, but I feel like 6 weeks into it, I caught myself like finishing the drawing looking good, and I still had 12 minutes.
Oh shit.
And then I would have time to start playing with like, then I started putting more like color. In the start, they were like monochromatic. Then I started putting like a couple of colors and like, and different size of brushes and like that. And it was like a workout. And like that class, everybody was so focused. And then 25 minutes became like a long time. And then, you know, we would do like 5 or 6 drawings a class. And, you know, the pace was so fast that you didn't even have much time to look at them. Oh, okay, cool. You throw them on the floor. And then at the end of the class, you would be like, oh my God, this looks great. And I remember doing one that it was like a portrait in 25 minutes.
Yeah.
But it was not like that. It was like big brushes. And when I did it, I wasn't even trying to get the guy to look exactly. I was just trying to get the structure and all that. And then when I saw it, I was like, that's that guy.
That's the
And
guy.
and at that time was around when I was freehanding all my tattoos. So then I was in good drawing shape.
Yeah.
It's like exercise.
It's an exercise,
Yeah, like
absolutely.
if you stop doing it, you know, like I can draw. I understand how it works. I do it with my tattoos all the time, but I don't draw like I did then.
Yeah.
But if I start drawing again every day, you'll get back into that shape.
Yeah.
It's amazing that like how easily you lose that skill.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
When I was in art school and I was going to college, I was doing these drawing classes that they were called high focus drawing, and it was a class where there was a model. You would draw the model, and we would get only 5 minutes to draw, and the whole point of the class was to take that 5 minutes and focus in on what's the most important part to get this gesture right. Still have a very clean drawing. Like it's not supposed to be like some kind of scribble to get it really in there quick. So you have to like figure out where's the weight of the body so that you can get like what looks right, like what's actually holding this body up. So instead of drawing like if you're doing from the torso to the legs, you might not draw the whole thing. You might just draw like this way for like the front of the stomach, and then that way for the ass and the back of the thigh. And like that would be enough to kind of give the idea of this is a human form, but it's clean. You feel the weight of the body actually standing there. It was I learned a lot doing that, and I was able to get those kinds of drawings pretty quick and pretty accurate. And after college, I stopped drawing like that. I can't do that now. And I was doing it so well. And it's like,
But the crazy thing is you can also get it faster than you think if you commit to it. The thing is that at your age and you know the amount of work you do is not very likely that you're gonna be like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna take
I'm
an
gonna start
hour
doing
a day
this now.
to start drawing. You know, I have
Especially
two
when
kids
I'm-
and all these things. I'm just gonna start drawing
Yeah.
for fun, or I'm gonna take a class. But if you had to, you'll get it. You'll get it back. You know, because I see it, and every now and then I get. Speaking of stencils that get erased, I had this Italian mafioso guy. He had been 18 years in jail, came out, and then he was going into jail again. And he calls me.
I want to get a tap before I go
Lalo,
to jail.
come tattoo me in my house. I'm in house arrest. So he wanted a portrait of his daughter. And it was in Long Island. His daughter just died. And I go, and he's a cool dude. And I go there, and I was like, oh, you know, I'm going to go early. I'll be back for dinner. It was 3 p.m. and I hadn't started because, you know, setting up in somebody's...
It always takes
Oh,
forever.
it
Yeah.
takes forever.
Takes
Yeah, when
forever.
people tell me, why don't you come and tattoo me here? I'm like, you pay me an extra day for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So whatever, I get there, and this guy is like 70-something years old. You know, the skin is so difficult. And I put the stencil, and it was one of those days that the stencil is like not really sticking.
Older
and his-
skin too always is a
Yeah.
little too dry sometimes, and
Yeah.
it doesn't have the stickiness to it.
Then it's like 4 p.m. and I'm tattooing, and I lose the stencil. And I remember, oh my God, Italian mafioso in his house. I'm in his house. All his buddies are stopping by. Like 30 people stopped by that day and brought food.
Oh my
Because he was
gosh.
going to jail. And
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
getting tattooed, you know?
Oh my god!
And I'm like, and I panicked for a second. And I remember at some point I was like, what are you going to do? Pack and go? You can't. Yeah, but I wanted to be at home by dinner. I'm like, you're not going to be at home by dinner. They're like, just breathe, man the fuck up. And you fucking took portrait class for 2 years. What, don't, you know, like make your mama proud. And
It's the
that's
time.
what I had to do. And, you know, sit there with a pen and like draw, tattoo, then like get the main little things. Try to use the little bit of the stencil that I had left. And it was it was probably panic for 20 minutes. Then it was like super high stress for like 40 minutes. Then I got into the zone. But it was not like the happy zone. It was like a zone like boom.
Survival. I don't
Yeah,
want to be
survival,
buried in this
like-
guy's backyard.
And then when I finished the tattoo, I was like,
Relief, bro.
did
I
the
did it.
guy
Yeah,
know
you can
any of that was happening? Did he know?
oh
Like,
yeah.
Oh,
But he was so more confident than I was.
He was
He's
like, you're an artist, bro. You
an
got
artist.
this.
Yeah, you got this.
And he's like, I believe in
Yeah.
you. I believe in you.
Oh man.
No, he saw it. You know, like he spent a lot of time in jail. He's good at reading humans,
Yeah.
human emotions.
What kind of stencil did you use?
What kind of stencils?
Yeah, did you do like a hand stencil on paper? Did you do like a printout stencil? Because like nowadays, if I'm doing a portrait and that shit's gone, I'm just gonna be like stencil it right back on there. Just make another stencil, put
dude,
it
it's
on.
never going to go back in the same spot.
Yeah, it's difficult.
I mean, it could.
I don't understand how like guys like Nico Hurtado will do a portrait and
Put the head on.
Put the head on like next
Half
week or
of the
next
forehead
section.
on later.
Oh, I do that a
How do
lot.
you do it?
I do
How?
a lot.
How do
Yeah.
you line that up?
I mean, you need to know your stopping stations. You know, like where your safe spot to stop. Like where would it be a good spot to? And sometimes when I'm tattooing somebody and I've already been many hours, and I'm like, okay, so this is the deal. You have 3 more hours in you, because if I jump into the next step, it's going to be another 3 hours, because there's no stopping on those 3 hours. And usually what I do is I always, even back in the day, I used to do hand stencils, but I used to scan them.
Yeah.
And then that I would print on I would put in the thermofax machine. I would always keep like the scan version of it to the size. And then if you break it down on the, like on a part that is easy to re-stencil later, what I do is I have a method with tape. Like what I do is person stands up, I align with the reference of the things behind. I have like a little method where I make sure that the paper is cut straight at some point, so I can put some tape so I can fold that, put the stencil stuff, and then
just lay it back down
for the most.
Yeah.
But like, for example, I wouldn't stop a portrait here and then next session do that. No, like I would stop a portrait here maybe, or like things like that. Like I would only do something like that if I was forced to do it for some reason. But I think, I do it all the time. It's doable. I remember the first time that I saw Nico doing that, I was like, oh shit. And then I was like, oh no, but wait, I started looking at where he was stopping and doing those things. And they were like, oh yeah, there's a method to these. Mm-hmm. So my stencils now, I do all of it. Like I have the Ghostline app. I like it.
Yeah, me too.
But sometimes I just need to be the certain information that I need more. So then I go and do the hand stencil with the iPad, and I put that on top of that.
Okay.
And when I'm at home, I print with the inkjet.
Yeah.
When I'm traveling,
one.
I do it with the traveling little thermofax. That's why I'm all full of stencil stuff today, because it gets all tricky. You gotta cut these, and it takes forever. But that's usually what I do now.
Nice.
But I still do a lot of by hand. Like I like using the app, and if I can get a good stencil with just the app, it's great because it saves me so much time.
Yeah.
But
my favorite thing of that app is doing the multi-page. Like if you're doing something big, it's like the best thing in the world.
Dude, last time I was here, I started a whole leg piece.
Mm-hmm.
So I do it in my iPad, right? I design it in my iPad. But in my iPad, I don't know how to control the size exactly and precisely. So then what I did, I had to do that and put it on my computer in Photoshop to the size, break it down to all these things.
That's my method right now. That's how I do it.
It took me like 3 hours just to get the stencil. 3 hours, if you're not charging for those hours, it sucks. And even if you're charging, if you can do it in like...
Still sucks.
If you can do it in 30 minutes or 15 minutes.
So you can get to work.
Better.
Yeah, so you can get to work.
Yeah. So that's one of the things I love about the multi-page, multi-size.
Saves so much time.
Yeah. That was the first thing when London called me up and I was like, oh, dude, you should do this. He's like, we did it. I was like, oh my God. I told him last week I spent 3 hours and I was like, I can't believe that I'm having to do all this. I was thinking maybe there's a way, I just don't know how to do it. But yeah, it's tattooing has come a long way.
Yeah. Ghostline app, guys. If you need to check it out, check it out. It's fucking great. We both use it. And you can get a discount with code Mesa or code Lalo, right?
I think with Lalo, you get a bigger one.
I'll have that all in the.
And I'll donate all that to some poor kids in South America.
I'll have both of the codes in the, in the show notes. You can choose which one you want to pick.
What did you work on this week?
So this week, I got to finish my nephew Jack's tattoo.
Oh yeah,
I started my nephew's first tattoo. He turned 18 in November. We started a lion on his arm. Just got to finish it this week. So that was cool. He was excited. Cool. His buddy was here. He got his first tattoo also. He got a couple of bears on his back.
Yeah, I saw that somebody else was getting. I was like, oh, he brought a homie this time.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Actually, that guy was supposed to come the first time too.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, the schedule didn't work out. He wasn't able to make it. But yeah, so I have a feeling I'm going to be starting to tattoo all of his buddies now. Everybody in high school.
Nice. And
Yeah.
how was that? Are you close to your nephew? Like, are you
Yeah.
buddies?
So me and my sister are pretty close, and so me and my nephew, when he was younger, like we used to hang out all the time. Obviously now he's in high school, he's hanging out with all his buddies and going drinking and partying. So, we're not as close as we used to be when he was younger. But
That's when I get close to my nephews when they start partying.
He's doing his own thing. But no, yeah, we're close. I mean, the whole family's really close. So it was a cool experience being able to tattoo him.
Nice. I have I've tattooed my nephews too, and it's a beautiful feeling. Like, especially like suddenly, oh, you're a grown up.
Yeah.
And there's actually this nephew of mine. He has got a lot of tattoos, and he has got some shitty ones. And I'm like, dude, really?
Why would you
like,
do this?
just ask me. I tell you where to go.
Yeah.
And then he got this one from this guy in Colombia who he's like the shit. And I was like so bummed out, dude. He's like one of these like Procreate Photoshop magicians.
Yeah.
I mean, you know it. When you see his portfolio, you're like, dude, like when is the Photoshop workshop? I'll take it. But I still had hopes that his tattoos were good.
We're at least okay.
Because the guy has good taste. His designs are cool. So I'm thinking, and then I see my nephew's tattoo and I'm like, dude. And this guy is like probably, I don't know, but I'm guessing he's like in his 30s. And my nephew tells me how the whole thing was. And I really honestly almost wanted to message him on Instagram. I'm like, hey, dude, I'm not trying to be rude to you or nothing, but as advice from somebody who has been doing this for longer and does high quality tattoos for a lot of money, you need to pay more attention to the final result on the skin. Because from what my nephew told me, that tattoo should have taken 2 sessions. He did it in 1 session. And you can tell it looks like a cat scratched it in there. It's a tattoo that most of his homies are going to be like, oh, cool tattoo because the design is cool.
Right. Yeah.
But
yeah,
like the
application of the tattoo is not saturated.
Scratch here, scratch that. But then you look at his Instagram, and next to the photos of his Mercedes Benz that he just bought, you're like, and it just drives me crazy. And I was like, am I becoming one of these old guys? Like you should. And I'm like, no, but there's the worst thing is with this guy is not even. I'm like, you have the talent, dude.
Yeah, like that guy's talented, but he's rushing through tabs.
You need to respect yourself better. So you will get the benefits of this in the future, like in an exponent, like more. But then I'm like, am I the one who has to maybe start learning how to do Photoshop so I can buy a Mercedes?
It reminds me of there was an artist that I found on Instagram not that long ago, and Heather actually knew who this guy was. And he was doing these big like back pieces, sleeves, and he was so proud that he was finishing these in 1 session.
Oh, in Long Island is the guy?
Man, check it out. I think he might have been in either Long Island or Florida. Because
Like
it was something that had...
It was in Florida. It was in Florida.
It was
This
something that had
The 5-hour guy?
the
yes,
the 5
the
hour
5 hour
back
guy,
piece.
5 hour
I
back
think it
piece
was
guy.
here, no? I think it was here. He blocked a lot.
He blocked Skylar. Yeah.
Skylar. Yeah.
Yeah, and he would be so proud, be like, "Oh man, check it out! I finished this back piece in 5 hours." And I'm looking at him like, "Man, you shouldn't be proud of that, bro." Like, the design was all right if you spent the time doing it and actually, put the hours into it. It'd be a cool tattoo, but man, like it was just scratched in there. It did not look good at
There's
all.
no way. There's no way you can do something like that in that amount of time. Like, look, one of the things, I think it was Mark Longnecker. He made a really good post one time about there's not such a thing as fast tattooers. The speed that it takes the ink to get into the skin is limited by the rules of physics. Like there's not such a thing as like, I'm going to crank up the machine and everything is going to go faster. No.
Right.
There's efficient tattooers.
There's an efficient tattooer.
Yeah. So he was, in his post, he was talking about how like, instead of putting the ink back there, he put it here. This
Wastes a little bit less time.
Yeah. And like little things. And I think that was such a good post because I'm always like thinking about those things. And I've been tattooing 30 years. And not so long ago, Matty Tat, he was watching me tattoo and he was like, dude, why do you have your towel in this hand? But then when you want to wipe, you pass it to the other one and then you put it back. I'm like, I don't know. He like, do you know how much time you waste doing that? And I wanted to be like, dude, who? Fuck, no, you're right.
You're right. I'm wasting time.
You're right.
You're about to be like, who cares? And you're like, yeah, I am wasting time.
No. And I've been trying to change that. It's so difficult because I'm so used to it.
You're so used to doing
It's
that.
habitual.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we're going to wrap this up because we've been going for a while. We're going to just keep talking here amongst us and have another drink. But thank you guys so much for tuning to Honest Tattooer. Thank you so much, Lalo, for coming through and showing some love. G Money.
Thanks for having me again.
Yeah.
Guys, I've been looking at this camera, which I don't know why. All the time, but I
It's
see
that
you
way. He's like, I've been looking at the side of this camera right in front of me the whole time. That's pretty great.
here to look unapproachable.
But one of these days, you know, we want to do like a little like Ink Master episode where we have a few of the peeps that have been on Ink Master, so you guys can talk all about that shit because we didn't even touch about the whole aspect of your career and all that shit. So we still have a lot to cover. We hope you come back. Absolutely.
Yeah, come back, Lalo.
First of all,
I'll come back. I'll tattoo here again.
you guys heard it here. We have it recorded. But Lalo, where can people find you?
No Idols this Tuesday at 2 p.m. No. Lalo Tattoos on Instagram. And you can find me in Colombia, in the Caribbean. I just opened an amazing studio on the beach that you should come and get tattooed there.
Dude, I'm so sad. We didn't.
Sounds awesome.
We wanted to ask you all about that shit.
Next
And that's
time.
a whole
show.
nother- I
After
know.
show.
It's like another after show.
True.
Yeah, we can talk about it.
We
too.
need the part 2 on Lalo's adventures, you know.
Oh, dude. Yeah. There's so many.
Before I forget them.
G Money, where can people find you?
At Gabe Tattoos on Instagram and resident here at No Idols Tattoo in Lower East Side, Orchard Street. It's awesome. Come on by.
And
Cool. You can find me at Matt Triano on Instagram.
you can find me at John Mesa Tattoos NYC on Instagram. Make sure that you share this freaking video because a lot of you guys are watching but not liking it. So make sure you destroy the like button on this video and smash that shit. Smash the like button. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Peace.
Peace.